I want to ask your thoughts on that, as far as him giving us the desires of our heart, because it says in Psalms 37:4 that those that delight themselves in the
Mhm.
Lord, He gives us the desires of our heart. And so the more I study that and kind of look into it, it really seems like not only does He give us the desires of our heart, but because He delights in us, that I would argue that His desires actually become our desires, and that our desires become His desires, and so they're kind of like intertwined together. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I like that. Okay, so I'll play the attorney real quickly. I was gonna say
Okay.
devil's advocate, but that's not who I am at all. So I'll play an attorney with that
Okay.
instead. Uh, I see our heart is not always aligned with his, so we can have desires that aren't in line with what he has for us. So I'll say that does happen. However, when we delight ourselves in the Lord, like you're saying, our desires do start changing where they actually are what he has for us. So I would say, yeah, that's true. It's kind of both and, right? So our natural inclination could be to live really more for our fleshly desires, which aren't going to be in line with his word. I mean, even Paul said it, right? I do the things I don't want to do, and I don't want to do those things that I do. And so he
Yeah.
struggled with that and had that tension. And I think we can have that too. But the more that we spend time with the Lord, the more that we worship Him, for instance, the more we do that, the more we become. We become who we look at. So in psychology, we would
That's
call that
good.
modeling, right? So when you watch someone doing something and you spend enough time with them, you start behaving like them, especially if you kind of like them. And so when we do that with the Lord, when we're spending time in prayer, when we're spending time in worship, when we're spending in time looking after Him, or looking toward him, you might say, then we do start to have hearts that model his and we become more and more like him. It's like a never ending task, right? We're going to continue working on that throughout our entire existence. But the
Yeah.
more we work on becoming like him, the more actually we do become like him until one day, as First John would say, we don't know what we'll be like, but we'll be like him once we actually see him and look upon him. And that's like the glorious hope, right? That one day we'll actually be more like him than we are now, but
Yeah.
we should be more like him now than we were, say, a year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago.